Hey, it's Vu, and today I'm going to be talking about how to play on T side. This is something that a lot of people have problems with because a lot of people don't fully recognize you need to have different goals and you need to be good at different things for terrorist side as compared to counter-terrorist side. So on terrorist side, I'm going to talk about 5 main things that you need to be good at and that you need to have as goals here. So first of all, flashes over other nades. I think flashes are more important on terrorist side in solo queue. Second, working a singular area. Third, movement and peeking. Fourth, limited information. And finally, risk versus reward. Now, these are things that you will need to know on both sides. However, these are the 5 most important things in my eyes that you need to know to be able to play on T side, especially in solo queue. So, first of all, flashes over other nades. Now, you will want to know, of course, smokes, molotovs, and heat grenades that can be extremely useful. For example, this smoke can be very useful later on into the round so that you can execute out with your team. However, if you're playing in a solo queue game that's with 4 random teammates against 5 unknown, probably random opponents, you want to know flashes because you're very likely to be working picks more often than not. And if you're working picks, flashes are going to be what's allowing you to get kills without simply taking straight up gunfights. If you know pop flashes or even just good normal flashes that you can throw on your own and utilize well, you can give yourself a lot of easy kills on this T side. So for example, that flash I threw there is good, as well as if you want to be working towards cat, that's another good flash. You throw it, it lands on the box, they either look at it and they get blind, or they look away and you shoot them in the back. That's one of the greatest things about flashes. Now, as I said, you do need to know other smokes, but flashes are really what you want to prioritize here on T side. On CT side, you prioritize some other nades. Now, as for knowing your flashes, what you want to be doing is mostly knowing flashes in a certain area that you want to be going to every round and a half if it's working for you. For example, for me, every round on Inferno, I go banana. Every round on Nuke, I go ramp. Every round on Dust 2, I go catwalk. Now, you want to have secondary areas that you can go if that singular area isn't working, but you always want to be focusing going one area on your T side because you can get very good at taking that area, preferably areas where you can be peeking one angle at once. That's what I mean by... That's why I go cat here, because I can peek one angle. I'm never exposed to multiple angles, or not very much. I can often get picks only exposed to a singular angle, and I could do this in my sleep. I do it so much. You want to get into the position where you've done this so many times, it's so ingrained in your head to do a certain peek at a certain area that you can stop focusing on working that singular area. You stop focusing on, where they could be, and you start focusing on other things. You start focusing a little bit more on your peeking and movement, where you can have perfect peeks. You're always peeking out directly onto them as much as possible. You're peeking out here, for example. There's only one angle you could be peeking, so you peek out right at him. If his head's there, you simply tap, and you minimize your need to hit crazy shots. So you can always be expecting opponents to be in certain areas. Perfect peeking, movement, and crosshair placement is going to help you work that singular area. Now, once you have both of those things down, you can move even on from thinking about working that singular area and thinking about your movement and peeking. You can instead move on to focusing on the intricacies of T-side, which is going to be limited information and risk versus reward. Now, limited information is important because on the counter-terrorist side, you can just sit and hide in certain areas, and the terrorist has no idea where you're going to be, and you can surprise them. For example, a counter-terrorist can sit here on platform, and you have to run up, exposing yourself to multiple areas at the same time, trying to clear out a bunch of angles, and he can be sitting on plat, you peek towards the car, he just shoots you in the side of the head as you're running up. That's why most maps are CT sided, because they can surprise you. So what you always want to be doing is utilizing any information you get at all as much as possible and as quickly as possible. Don't let counter-terrorists start to push you back when you have an opportunity. So for example, you might occasionally see you're up on the top of cat here and someone on elevator tosses a smoke from below. Now, you don't always want to immediately peek that guy. However, if you have some knowledge on the map from earlier that round, for example, 3 people crossed, so there's 1 mid, 2 at B, and you know 1 is in pit, then you know he is solo at A. So if he throws that smoke from CT, you want to immediately utilize that information he gave you. You want to not be at all indecisive. You have to be very decisive here. You see him throw that smoke, immediately peek out, because he's given you free information. Here is where I am, and if you can stop him from throwing that smoke and then repositioning and having the upper hand on you again, you're going to give yourself a very good opportunity to get a kill in that type of scenario. Another good scenario as an example would be if someone's opping this corner. For example, one thing people do occasionally is they'll actually rifle this corner, hiding behind it, hiding, and then peek out when they hear you on the stairs. Now, they might not kill you. What'll happen is they'll take a few shots at you, and then they'll try and drop. What you might want to consider here is, what do you know? Well, if you again know that they're playing only 1 guy towards Cat, you might want to consider chasing this guy, because he's given you the information there that he is exactly down here on elevator. You can run right after him and catch him before he's had the ability to, he can fall back, he can get into another advantage position by having the fact that you have limited information in his mind, and he can really get the upper hand on you. Now, you have to also recognize, because you have limited information on the terrorist side, that your risk-reward needs to be something you're thinking about. So risk-reward in 5-on-5s is extremely important, and I think a lot of people don't recognize this. For example, on Nuke, okay, you're on a 70-30 CT-sided map. A 50-50 engagement is incredibly good for you, because you have taken a 70-30 map and picked a singular 50-50 engagement. You need to always be looking at that risk reward. What is the risk for me taking this peek? Well, if you're on Nuke and you take a peek towards ramp, the risk is that you could die. But the reward is, if you take a 50-50 engagement, you're in a 70-30 map, you have the advantage here. Even though it's only a 50-50 engagement, or even if you're at a 45% disadvantage there, you still have the advantage in terms of map control and actual risk versus actual reward. And this is something a lot of people don't recognize on T or CT side. But on T side, that means that chasing these people for limited information, when you have that info, can be amazing even if you are at a disadvantage, because you can still catch them and you can still get in a 50-50 engagement on maps where it's not a 50-50. So you can actually get huge advantages just by recognizing when you need to be taking risks and when you shouldn't. So, for example, in a 3-on-1, you want to be working it not taking any risks, of course, but in a 5-on-5 on a CT-sided map. Now, Dust 2 is a little bit under a question mark here. Is it T? Is it CT-sided? You have to make that decision on your own, and you can change up your playstyle a little bit based on how you decide that. Now, personally, I still think it's a little bit CT-sided, depending on what teams you get, so I will take these 50-50 engagements, because I feel like in a 5-on-5, a 50-50 engagement is a perfect example of an engagement you want to be playing. Anyways, this is just a question I've been asked quite a bit. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.